This is a man who was a high school dropout, who went to reform school. You're very different, at least on the surface. Why do you love him?
He's got a side to him that's scary. There's a time when he cannot control his temper.
Is it true that he caught you and Brad Pitt pulling up in the driveway?
Mike Tyson was one of the strongest men in the world, and he used his strength against the people he loves. His wife, Robin, went through hell married to Mike. He would shake her and throw her around. Mike even admitted to throwing fists a few times. And on top of that, he made sure she knew that he would do anything in his power to ruin her life. So let's get into it. I want to talk to you guys about the relationship between Mike Tyson and Robin Givens, because they had a tumultuous relationship that we saw fall apart in front of our eyes. Now, Robin Givens was an aspiring actress and Mike Tyson was a big heavyweight champion. He actually became the youngest heavyweight champion in history when he defeated a guy named Trevor back in 1986. So when they first met, Mike was a lot further in his career than Robin was. But they hit it off, and after dating for about a year, they decided to get married in September 1988. But unfortunately, their marriage only lasted a year and the couple divorced on Valentine's Day in 1989. Because Mike was such a big deal, we saw a lot of this couple, and I want to go through what happened between them and the interviews that kind of give us those red flags.
Well-educated, actress. This is a man who was a high school dropout, who went to reform school. You're very different, at least on the surface. Why do you love him?
Because he's smart. Because he's gentle. He's got this incredibly gentle side. Because Michael loves me more than anything in the world.
Now, Robin did a really good job at protecting Mike and the way that he had treated her. I mean, she was stuck in a relationship that she was probably scared to be a part of. Mike Tyson admits that he married Robin to fill a void created by his low self-esteem. Quote, periodically at times, I have this big effing deep hole in me every now and then. It's not activated now, but it activates every now and then I just want it all. He then went on to describe the overwhelming intensity of that feeling. It's not enough. I can't fill it up. Drugs are not enough. Nothing's enough. So he's got some type of, I guess, emotional void that, you know, aligns with his self-worth. And when he gets into this hole, he's just not a good guy, and not even drugs can dissociate him. While the world saw the marriage between Mike Tyson and Robin Givens as a happy one, Robin soon revealed her version of the story, in which Mike Tyson was abusive and mentally ill. During a joint interview with Barbara Walters, Robin leveled several harsh allegations against Mike Tyson, describing their marriage as torture, pure hell, worse than anything she could imagine. I want you guys to hear Robin describe Mike's other side when he's in this hole. And honestly, like, looking back, it's so interesting to see them publicly do this interview with Barbara Walters and kind of like own up to like the chaos which is their relationship and their prior marriage.
Robin, some of the things that we've read, that he's hit you, that he's chased you and your mother around in Russia, that Mike has a very volatile temper, true?
Extremely volatile temper. I think people see that about every 3 months. He's got a side to him that's scary. Michael is intimidating, to say the least. I think that there's a time when he cannot control his temper.
If you guys haven't looked at this video yet, take a look at the screen and see how big Mike Tyson is, because he's a big guy. And if he's got a temper, I would not want to be on his bad side. Robin claims that Mike wasn't only physically abusive, but also emotionally abusive. And he would accuse her of things that she did not do, like cheating on him with Brad Pitt. Like, where did you get that? Nor did the abuse stop with their divorce. Supposedly, Mike made a number of disturbing phone calls to Robin, telling her he planned to make her life so miserable that she would kill herself. He said, quote, I've decided I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to make your life so miserable that you slit your own throat and die. Oh my gosh, scary man. She said, there are times where I thought I could handle his temper, and then recently I've just become afraid. I mean, I'm very, very much afraid.
And that's frightening to me, or to my mother, and to anyone around. It's scary.
What happens?
He gets out of control, throwing, screaming.
Does he hit you?
He shakes, he pushes, he swings. Sometimes I think he's trying to scare me. There were times when it happened when I thought I could handle it, you know. And just recently I've become afraid.
There is so much wrong with this interview. The fact that she's openly admitting that he does this stuff while he's just like watching over her shoulder. Like, do you think she could really tell her truth while he's there, like hovering over her, you know, her waiting to see what she says next? Something about this dynamic feels really wrong. And as someone who has had experience now dealing with like abuse survivors, I feel like this setup is actually the most like absolute worst thing you could do to someone who is trying to get past a situation with someone who's like an abusive partner.
For instance, Russia, I was afraid. And my mom and I are in the lobby of a hotel, and I said, what are we doing?
What was happening?
He was out of control.
Chasing after you in the lobby?
Yeah, Michael is a manic depressive. He is. I mean, that's just a fact. And when he's in a manic state, he doesn't sleep. He has enormous amounts of energy. So your sleeping agitates him. He gets you up. There's an argument. I mean, of course you want to sleep.
So you run out of the room and he runs after you.
Right.
And people see this, and it's in the paper.
Right.
I think when it comes to Mike, there's a lot more to his story and probably his ability to cope with his emotions. And I don't want to be like, I don't know, like a hater, but like you guys know that like sometimes when people are that buff, they use certain things to get to that point, which can cause like rage and anger. And it makes me question whether his clearly his mental health wasn't doing well, but I wonder if his like physical body, his hormones contributed to his inability to like dissociate from like reality and his emotions. Like he just got so enraged at her that he could not help it. And maybe that's part of like the stack he's on. Again, I don't know if he's like natural or what, but I'm just trying to understand how someone gets to this point.
First time I can understand abused women, because what happens is, or people, you know, you say, why do you stay in there? Well, number one, you love the person, and number two, you get accustomed to being treated poorly.
What she's saying there is straight up facts, because that is a case. And I've been in that situation before too, where you have someone who's so terrible to you, but you just feel like in love with them and attached to them and dependent on them, that you just take it. And honestly, it seems like even in this moment, she's still kind of there, still kind of taking it. Like still, after everything he's done to her, she's sitting here with Barbara Walters trying to tell the world that he's a decent guy, even after describing all these like horrendous things that no grown man should be doing to anyone, let alone their wife.
Doing this interview, what you wanted people to know.
I don't want him to seem like a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. It happens for a reason, something that we're now working to control. With the type of disease that Michael has, he was a hyperactive child. It turned into something else. It's something that he's had for a very long time. It went untreated, therefore it got worse. It's something that the doctor says gets worse in your 20s.
She can go and, you know, explain his mental health and those other issues as much as she wants. But at the same time, I think she knows deep down she doesn't deserve that. And that's part of the reason she's telling her story. It is weird, though, that he's just sitting there, like, kind of taking it. But in September 1988, he actually got into a car accident that really, like, screwed him over. He actually said he wanted to harm himself at that point. I guess at this moment, he was really not doing well, because he said he was going to crash his car. And then he said he was also going to unalive his wife and then himself.
Robin, there was the incident last month when Mike drove his car into a tree.
And he kept calling. All throughout the night, he would call and wake me up. Do you love me? Are you sure you love me? Finally, it was about 11 o'clock. He called me and said that he loved me and he was going to prove his love and to call back at 11:20. I knew right away what Michael was going to do. It's something that he'd been threatening to do. We had seen that side. I tried to get him to hang on, and I couldn't. At 11:15, I called, and the ambulance was on its way. To tell you the truth, they told me he was in a car. It was a great deal of relief. I knew that he had guns, or I knew that he'd been trying to get guns, and I thought that maybe he was going to be a little bit more deliberate.
So that you'd feel sorry?
Yes.
Can you imagine the emotional turmoil that Robin was going through by being married to this man and taking on all of his pain? And honestly, it's hard for me to have like empathy, sympathy for Mike in this moment, but also looking at him there, I see a really sad man. Like, it looks like he has sadness in his eyes. He clearly doesn't know how to cope with whatever he's gone through, and this is his way out, and he just really needs like some behavioral, like psychological treatment to, and I'm not saying that as a read, I'm just saying in general, like in psychology that I learned, like you go through the behavioral psychology and that teaches you different ways to cope with your emotions. Like for me, every time I get a shot or I get blood drawn, like I freak out, and I've had to learn different ways to calm myself down so I don't get to that point. So when he gets into a confrontation, he needs to learn those skills to calm himself down. About a month after this interview went live, Robin filed for divorce against Mike Tyson. The divorce was based on spousal abuse, and the judge granted Robin a restraining order. But of course, Mike did not like this, and he went to the media saying that she was trying to steal his possessions. Supposedly, their marriage was full of darkness and controversy, and according to Mike, she was trying to rob him of his fortune, which really, after everything like you put her through, you really think her whole plan was just to rob you? Mike wrote, I also didn't know that Robin and her mother, Ruth, had been on the prowl for a big black celebrity for Robin since she graduated college. What? Stating that like Robin's mother and her worked together to trap him. Throughout his memoir, he references Robin's mother, calling her Ruthless rather than her real name, Ruth. He claims they put a great deal of focus on acquiring his real estate and financial payouts that would benefit them in the future. Mike alleges, in addition to being gold diggers, Robin's mother also happens to be a dangerous woman that drugged him. He said they were giving medicine to my friend Rory to give to me. They wanted him to make sure I took it. And I guess the medicine was like lithium that was prescribed by a psychiatrist, which you guys know Brittany was put on lithium and like her rights were taken away from her. So I don't know. I mean, now this is sounding a little bit more sketchy now that Mike is telling his side. Despite his allegations, Robin was awarded $10 million in their divorce settlement, though she claims she hasn't received anything besides hate from his fans because she has shared her story, and he wrote in his memoir that she's a gold digger. A lot of people do not like her, and she's got a bad reputation, which is sad because like, wasn't he abusing her? Because of his book, Robin actually filed a $125 million lawsuit against him, claiming that the comments he had made and the allegations he wrote about completely ruined her ability to like work again. But Mike went through with his book, and he is standing by his truth, and his truth also includes the allegation that Robin had slept with Brad Pitt. This is something that Robin had denied prior, but he claims that he found her in bed with Brad Pitt. At that point, he was pretty young, Brad Pitt was, so when he saw Mike Tyson, supposedly he was very scared. He said, "You should have seen his face when he saw me. I was due a divorce, but every day I would go to her house to have sex with her. This particular day, someone beat me to the punch. I guess Brad Pitt got there earlier than I did." So they were divorcing, yet every day he would go over to her house to still have sex with her. That is so chaotic. Oh my God. Mike Tyson adds that Brad must have been a little high because I know about high. He wasn't the Brad he was now. He was a little beach bum, a little nerdy. He claims he didn't beat up Brad Pitt, that Brad Pitt seemed very scared in that moment, so he let him go. But what a wild story to tell.
I was getting a divorce. I was going to my lawyer office to divorce her that day, but I wanted to sneak in a quickie. Before I go to my lawyer's office to say she's a pig and they're stealing, I would go to the office and have sex with her. To her house, I'm sorry, to her house, and have sex with her. But this particular day, someone beat me to the punch. Brad got there earlier than I did.
What was your reaction when?
I was mad as hell. You should have saw his face when he saw me.
So of course, Mike got a lot of attention for his memoir, but Robin claims it's not the full truth because she claims that he did catch Brad and her hanging out, like pulling up in the driveway, but he never caught them in bed. That is a load of BS.
So is it true that he caught you and Brad Pitt pulling up in the driveway of the house?
Oh, pulling up in the driveway. Yes, that part's true. I thought he said he caught us in bed. I was told that he says he caught us in bed, which never happened.
So she's saying no, it never happened. Actually, her and Brad were at a work event prior and there wasn't anything like, you know, secretly happening here. So that is kind of messed up of Mike to like completely rewrite the story.
But what happened when you pulled up in the driveway? Where were you coming
I was
from?
like, Brad, go. Oh, we were coming from like a screening or something.
He claims that Brad said like, "Don't hit me, don't hit me."
No.
No, that did not happen.
Does that sound like Brad? I mean, Brad's got some swag, you know what I mean?
Whether they both did each other wrong in their marriage, there is no excuse for them to get physical.
I truly wanted to sock her. You know, at that particular moment, I truly wanted to sock her, but I just didn't do it. I was young at the time. I was really
Did you sock her afterwards?
No, not afterwards. I didn't sock her. I wanted to sock her. I have stalked her before, and she stalked me before as well, but it was just that kind of relationship, you know.
Was it an abusive relationship?
Oh, definitely, both ways, definitely.
And what's surprising to me is that, like, why is it okay that they're just like admitting to this? Is it because he's like a fighter? He's a boxing star, so he's allowed to beat up his wife? That's not okay. He's clearly a man who's struggling, and when his daughter unfortunately passed away, he did an interview explaining how he did not know how to handle his anger, saying that he wanted to use guns against people. He said, "This was my best thinking at the time. Get my gun automatic just like this and go crazy." And when Mike was asked who he was going to hurt, he didn't have an answer, saying only, "That's just my first thought." And that is scary. His first thought is just to go to a weapon and to cause destruction, cause pain. These are the kind of people that we need to like look out for and to give them help, essentially. In 2018 on the Wendy Williams show, Robin says that she carries a burden of responsibility when it comes to what happened with her and Mike Tyson. She felt a need to be there and to protect him, even though it was against the best interest of herself. She said, "I think sometimes you have a hard time sticking up for yourself, but it's easier to stick up for people you love." So other people around her were like, get out of that marriage.
Oh, so tell me about those last days with Mike. Why did you stay so long, and what made you leave?
It didn't, well, you know, my sister. I think sometimes as people, women, perhaps men experience the same thing. You have a hard time sticking up for yourself, but it's easier to stick up for people you love. And I remember being in our house in New Jersey in a closet off the kitchen, and we were all in the closet, 4 of us hiding, and I remember my sister bawling, saying, "How long are you gonna put us all through this?"
Wow.
Even though Robin has been able to publicly share her side of the story, she's had so much hate, and she never really got her divorce settlement. And she's not the first one. I guess Monica Turner, Mike Tyson's second wife, also claims that she was granted a multi-million divorce settlement, but never got it. So I don't know like what happens there, but I guess in 2004 the courts called him up and said, "Hey, you've got to pay these women." So hopefully they got their payouts. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think Mike Tyson like should be in jail for what he did, or do you think he's like a troubled man who really is like crying for help? I really don't know how to unpack this story, but I've watched him online and on podcasts, and yeah, I just never really knew this side of him, so I'm a little bit disappointed. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you in a new one soon. Bye, guys.